Once upon a time, in a small town nestled deep in the forest, there lived a young girl named Emily. She was known for her adventurous spirit and her love for exploring the woods that surrounded her home. She would often venture out on her own, wandering deep into the trees, listening to the rustling of leaves and the chirping of birds. One day, as she was making her way back home, she realized that she had lost her way. The trees looked unfamiliar, and the path she had taken seemed to have disappeared. Panic started to set in as she began to realize that she was lost in the forest with no idea how to find her way back. As the day turned to night, Emily stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin deep in the forest. Desperate for shelter, she made her way inside, hoping to find some respite from the darkness and the cold. But as soon as she stepped inside, Emily felt a sense of unease wash over her. The cabin was dark and musty, and there was an eerie silence that hung in the air. She tried to shake off the feeling and make herself comfortable, but it was no use. The cabin was not a safe place to be. As she tried to leave, the door wouldn't budge. Emily was trapped. She started to hear strange noises, the sound of footsteps approaching her. She tried to scream, but her voice was caught in her throat. Suddenly, the cabin was filled with a blinding light. Emily shielded her eyes, and when she opened them again, she found herself face to face with a ghastly figure. It was a creature that she had never seen before, with long, sharp claws and piercing eyes that glowed in the dark. The creature spoke to her in a low, menacing voice. "You have trespassed in my home," it said, "and now you must pay the price." Emily tried to run, but the creature was too fast. It chased her through the cabin, its claws scratching against the wooden floorboards. She tried to fight back, but it was no use. The creature was too strong. As the night wore on, Emily realized that she was no longer alone. The cabin was filled with other creatures, all of them watching her with hungry eyes. They circled her, taunting her, as she cowered in fear. Hours turned to days, and Emily was trapped in the cabin with the creatures. She tried to escape, but it was impossible. The creatures were too powerful, too cunning. They had trapped her, and there was no way out. Days turned to weeks, and Emily lost track of time. She was consumed by fear, by the constant feeling of being watched. She tried to hold on to hope, but it was slipping away from her. She was slipping away from her. She was sure that she was going to die in that cabin, alone and forgotten. And then one day, the creatures vanished. Emily was left alone in the cabin, with no explanation for their disappearance. She stumbled out into the daylight, blinking against the harsh sunlight. She was disoriented, unsure of what had happened. But as she made her way back home, Emily realized that something had changed. She was no longer the same person who had ventured out into the forest. The experience had changed her, and she knew that she would never be the same again.